Hello and welcome to the Comedy Slab podcast. I'm Shane O'Connor. He's Adrian Lacey. And if you've never caught up with the podcast before, well, we've been flogging our guts out here at this end, trying to make it entertaining. You couldn't even be bothered to show up and click a button to download it. But hey, we're not going to hold that against you, are we, Adrian?
Well, indeed. I mean, because, you know, you can... it's repairable. The situation is repairable. You can go back into our archive, say lots of nice things about us, follow us on Twitter and at the Facebook. And, we're not ones to bear grudges, are we?
Although you never know who's listening. I was having a conversation on Facebook a bit earlier on with an ex-neighbour of mine a couple of addresses ago, a lovely fella who we keep in touch with. Mm. And he was asking how child number 2 that's on the way was incubating and all the rest of it. Mm. And he said, oh, and by the way, I'm with you, I like Warren as well. So...
Oh, just threw that in as if...
He might not have been listening. Maybe he just seen the bits and pieces on social media. But either way, at least they know we're having the conversation. So we're halfway there, aren't we, I guess, really? Anyway.
Yeah, but I liked him up until that point. And now I think, well, he probably hates me, for one, not being a Warren... I'm a Warren denier rather than one of the converted.
He did say, actually, he said, I've never liked that Adrian Lacey. I was only saying that to Martin Clunes the other day.
Funny enough, that's it's entirely Martin's phrase. I've never liked that Adrian Lacey.
Martin said, yes, I agree, he's a scumbag.
That's one of the nicer things he said about me.
That is the only thing we can repeat.
The rest is due to a court action next Wednesday.
The Wester the Wood.
The Wood.
Anyway, if you've never caught up with the podcast before, it's a simple premise, because we are but simple men. That's been said quite a few times.
Sadly, yes.
Essentially, we'll pick a comedy each week. Adrian picks one week, I pick one the following week, and we go away, do our homework, watch them, critique them, pull them apart, write some notes, come back together and meet and discuss and give them marks out of 10. And we're keeping a kind of leaderboard as well, aren't we? We're keeping that. I'm trying to keep it up to date, actually. I think the last couple I've forgotten to put on if I've said that.
Well, you haven't written them down.
Shut myself in my head. I've got them written down, actually, because the last couple, what was it, Warren, which we just talked about, we only gave 5.5, thanks to Adrian absolutely hating it with a passion.
That was me being generous.
The finest army camouflage couldn't hide. And Fleabag was last week, which got an absolutely resplendent 9.
Yeah.
So one extreme to the other, really, weren't they, I guess, those two?
Absolutely. So what you're saying, are you keeping up to date with the graphic, that beautiful, gorgeous graphic which shows all the scorages?
That's the bit that I haven't... I've got to draw them on and colour it in. And as soon as I do, I'll stick him back up again.
You need more action transfers, don't you? That's what it is.
I think I think so. I need to get me artistic. I need to pull my artistic finger out.
Metaphorically speaking, does anyone have action transfers these days? We need the equivalent in the cyberspace.
I've got all this to come as my kids get older, but don't kids have fake tattoos?
What, henna?
That are no, they're like transfers. They're like we used to have. Like, oh, what have I got sticky on my arm there? That's the wonderful thing about having children.
Is that one of your tattoos?
Babies. I don't know what. Actually, it could be some jam off the donut I had before I started.
I've got one with a gun on. That's a military tattoo.
Oh, very good.
See what you did there? Yeah, but you didn't laugh, so it can't be that good. Moving on.
It was. Oh yes, I think the kids have these. They're like they're what we would call transfers, but they look like they're like fake tattoos, I think.
Yeah, but wither the Etch-a-Sketch. It has withered, hasn't it? Sadly.
Well, I won't bore you as to why, but
please do.
Okay, I was sending something out in the post. I hadn't got a box big enough, so I took a box of toys, my old toys that I've still got. And used that box because that was in a bigger box, and I kind of went through. I got some jigsaws and stuff. And one of the things, do you remember Flight Deck?
What, as in a program where you're the pilot?
It was an Airfix game where, well, I had Super Flight Deck, which was the really expensive one. I know.
No, we couldn't afford that. We were so poor, I had to be breastfed.
It's just...
They didn't have milk tokens in my day. Anyway, carry on.
It used to shoot the aeroplane up the fishing wire. Did you remember that one? Flight
Is that a euphemism?
shoot the aeroplane up the fishing wire. I'll be back in a minute.
I'll thank you to be a little more polite and considerate to our very distinguished listeners.
I thought that was. Using the euphemism is polite.
I suppose it could have been worse, yes. You could have told it as it is. Anyway, Are we going to get to an Etch-a-Sketch punchline here before I die?
No, but what I was going to say was, one of the things that I found in there was these like kind of wheels. Mm-hmm. And what you used to do was you used to put them on a piece of paper, and you'd use a drawing pin. So you'd have to put like on something, soft piece of wood or something, put a drawing pin in them. And then you'd draw around the cogs and they make a pattern. And it was like a kind of poor man's Etch-a-Sketch.
Oh, that's ringing vague bells, yeah.
Do you remember those?
Yeah. You'd have to be really poor to have a poor person's version of Etch-a-Sketch, wouldn't you?
No, I remember it being quite expensive. That's what my mum and dad told me anyway.
Well, yeah, they would, wouldn't they?
Rotters.
Yeah, sorry to ruin that particular myth from your past.
Anyway, sorry.
What you haven't mentioned is the fact we have 3 audio clips for the benefit of people who may or may not have seen the show. We're going to slabadise.
I was just going to do that.
Oh, please do.
We've got 3 audio clips.
Oh, it's easy to say now, isn't it? Make yourself look good. Yeah, exactly. What's the show we're slabbing? Remind me.
What was the middle bit? What I was going to say was, actually, I was going to say that last week I chose You, Me and the Apocalypse to review, which the reason that I have is because I keep seeing it being advertised on Freeview, because I think it's on a channel called Pick. They've just started. It was on last night, actually. And I thought, that'd be a good one too. Because I've not seen it. It's an old one. It's 2015, isn't it? I think this thing.
Yeah, I guess Pick gets the kind of reruns, doesn't it? Not to be unkind to them.
I think, it's one of the BBC Yesterday drama and all that kind of channels, isn't it? I think. Anyway, I'm not really quite sure. But anyway, I thought, that'll be all right because they're showing it on the TV. We can have a look at it. It's an old one. It's an oldie but goodie, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Neither of us had seen it before. And the only reason I was going to mention it straight away was because I thought if the first clip that I've chosen is the intro to the programme, which kind of explains the premise, doesn't it, of the whole programme?
Yeah, that can, in the words of the song from Sound of Music, a very good place to start, isn't it?
Yeah.
Start at the very beginning.
Well, we've got to choose a clip. We've got to explain what You, Me and the Apocalypse starring Mathew Baynton is all about. So I thought, here would be a good place.
I can see clearly now the rain is gone.
See that? That's what's going to kill everyone. Any second now. Doesn't matter who you are, who you pray to, black or white, straight or gay, rich or poor.
It's gonna be bright.
Yep, it's Judgment Day, the actual apocalypse. And where am I? In Slough. Or rather, under Slough. Watching it on telly.
1 minute now, 1 minute. These pictures coming live to us from Hubble.
I know what you're thinking. Cheer up, you're one of the lucky ones. My question is, am I? I mean, have you seen who else is in here?
From Beijing and Jerusalem.
Who are these people? How the hell did this happen? Are we the future of mankind? I mean, seriously?
Okay. Do I have to wear my colours on my sleeve now, or whatever the expression is?
I don't know. You can drip feed it if you want, or you can just blurt it all out. You can shoot your aeroplane up
the fish bowl.
Up the fishing wire if you want.
Salutes. That's going to be a legendary catchphrase, I feel, for the Comedy Slab. And for all listeners there too. I'm sorry that the entire show, for me, folded on the mention of the word Slough. And that's a terrible confession, because we're back to, careful how I pronounce it, anchoring. And for the benefit of those who hadn't heard, was it last week's show? But you probably know the concept. rather than being these wonderful rational beings we want to think ourselves, and I include myself in that number as a deluded individual, who weigh up things in, on the one hand this, on the other hand that, we actually decide something very early on, we kid ourselves that we're being fair, and then we warp the world around it to justify our early decision. And the problem I have with the word Slough is it's shorthand for corporate Britain, or whatever one wants to call it. And immediately, I mean, what's the one comedy, anyone who knows British comedy at all from the last 20, 25 years, what show do you associate with Slough?
Oh, it's The Office.
Yeah. So immediately it says, oh, right. And they would know that. Anyone in the trade would know that is the association we have. So either they're saying we're Office version 2.0, or I don't know what the other thing is. It's such a shorthand of all the towns you could have picked. Why not, branch out a bit?
Well, I mean, was it Betterman who wrote about it as well?
Come friendly bombs and fall on Slough.
Slough.
Slough of Despond. That's in Pilgrim's Progress.
But so, I mean, is that a crime then? Is that it's shorthand for mediocrity and being mundane and all that? But I mean, I got this thing that everybody's got to be somewhere, and what better? I mean, if you'd have said, for argument's sake, West Brom, who you probably never even. I don't know if you've heard of it. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Well, I know of the Albion that's associated with it, and I'm not even a football fan.
Yeah, but all right, West Bromwich. But it doesn't have the same. Because I thought exactly the same as you. In fairness, I thought, it's The Office then, and is that lazy, or is that kind of gets that out of the way and makes you realise exactly what we're talking about straight off. I don't know. I know what you mean. So are you saying that the fact that it's based in Slough has ruined the whole thing for you?
It's much more complicated than that. I certainly want to feel that... No, I have thrashed this around in my head. And here's the joke. I was raised in Watford. First thing I see under locations on IMDb, the Internet Movie Database.com... great repository of knowledge about the movies.
Suppository. I think it was. You might as well have stuck it. You want?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, actually, suppository is the right word. Raised in Watford, and sure enough, one of the locations is Watford. It's what we call I think it's the couple of the establishing shots, aerial shots, just between scenes, are my hometown. On a clear day, you can see John Lewis at the Harlequin Shopping Centre on the left of shot, and I think we're looking at some corporate headquarters. So, they talk about Slough, they're showing you Watford. Well, that's not unusual in the world of film and TV, is it? I never fully understood it, but hey, that's how they roll.
My brother used to live at Abbots Langley. That's not far from you, is it?
Oh, come on, that's the posh end.
I was going to say
they rattle their jewellery in Abbots Langley, and Kings Langley. They're probably even posher. But
very posh.
The only thing in Abbots Langley's defence is that it's got the same initials as me. Other than that, it's pretty thin on the ground. Yeah,
I never noticed that before. Yeah,
by the by,
Abbots Langley,
clutching at straws. I think. Yeah.
So you're really bitter and twisted then. The fact that not only they're lazy and they use Slough, but they couldn't even use Slough
for the aerial shots. Well,
for the pictures,
that's not a big criticism. It's just an oddity of how film and TV work, and you think, okay, well, why is that the case? It's not their fault. It's we could go back years, but it's meant to be shorthand. I think it's shorthand for somewhere anonymous, as I say, corporate. And further developing my theme, there are there's some good moments and some good actors in this. So it's not without upside. Merits, thank you. I haven't even got the excuse of being up early today. I just can't think very quickly. But it's definitely got its merits. We'll get to those. But I've got to have an Uber rant now. I'm on a roll. If I may finish shortly, it's my suspicion that this comes from. I'm not blaming the actors. I don't know who I'm blaming. I suspect there's been some kind of, and I come back to the C word, corporate conversation about how can we appeal to the mass of Sky viewers, and I know how we'll do it. We'll show an quotes ordinary person in a corporate job, and that'll be the way into loads and loads of viewers and all of that. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, that's how it feels.
What the audience as well? You're saying about a British audience would get that as well, and you mentioned the cast, and the cast is quite transatlantic, isn't it? Really. I mean, I was quite impressed.
I thought you were going to say transcendental, but yeah.
No, it's like half American and half Brits, and I just wondered who the audience was. I mean, I know it was made by or made for Sky, wasn't it? But I just wondered if it was ever shown in the US or, and therefore, but again, they wouldn't get the Slough reference, would they? I suppose.
Well, except possibly not without any a bit of digging. But perhaps that brings us straight back to The Office again. If you're doing even the most shallow digging about the show, say you're in America and you've never heard of what is this Slough place, then that will lead you straight back to The Office. Maybe it's about that, but that again is a bit cynical. But I think you're thinking of Rob Lowe in terms of the transatlanticism. He is superb, actually. He's one of the merits.
Well, Megan Mullally, who I mean, if you look back at her, you probably think, I wouldn't. I mean, I know her because I've read a couple of Nick Offerman's books. His husband, and I used to watch Parks and Recreation, and her husband was in that, and she actually had some, she appeared in it from time to time with some smaller roles. I think she's one of the Saturday Night Live gang as well, Megan Mullally, who played the white supremacist in the jail with the swastika on her head. And also, is it Jenna Fischer as well, the woman who's in prison? Yeah. She was in The American Office. She played the Lucy Davis role, the Dawn role, although they kind of went their own separate way with storyline, and they ended up doing about 15 series of The American Office. 15. But again, I mean, you look at them, like some of the American cast, and like you say, and Rob Lowe as well, who plays a priest in it. There's I think Nick Offerman's in it in later episodes as well.
Diana Rigg, you mentioned at the end of last week's Comedy Slab, yeah.
Yeah.
Who, by my calculation, is now 81, bless her.
Oh, right, okay. I'm probably still looking damn fine as well.
I'm sure, and would have been a mere youth in her 70s when this was made, as you say, in 2015.
Yeah. But the British cast as well, I like the British cast. Before we talk more about the cast, though, just tell me about the premise. What do you think of the premise, the whole idea? Because, interestingly, I read about this, and it's only done one series, and they wanted to do a second series, but I think the people who commissioned it said, like, it kind of ends when the world ends, really, or when the meteor strikes or whatever at the end of it all. That's pretty well. We don't want to really commission and they wouldn't commission a second series.
They should have thought that one through. If you really are going to end the world in series 1, you may not get a series 2. I haven't got an awful lot of sympathy.
I nearly mentioned this last week, or was it the week before when we were talking about Warren? And I really get annoyed with this because I think, and it's not the finest comedy you'll ever see, but you remember Porridge, which you will know intimately because of your famous cousin
Ron.
Ron was in it for a few episodes. But then after Porridge, there was a series called Going Straight where Fletcher comes out of prison, and it's about him trying to re-establish himself outside of prison. I think that we should do more of that. I think they should do more of take the characters Like, they tried to do it with Open All Hours, didn't they? They did Open All Hours and Still Open All Hours, which is it's a kind of lazy way of doing it. And when they did the remake of Porridge, it's a lazy way of doing it because you're not actually putting the characters in a new situation. You're just changing the time frame. But I think we should do more of this. I think we should do more of this. Okay, so the first one is about them all getting into the bunker. So what's the second one going to be about? It's going to be them trying to survive and continue, or, you know, whatever. They must have thought it. I think they did think it through, and I just think there's just not enough imagination to go, yeah, that's a good idea, we'll do that. It's vastly different from the first series, but we'll do it.
I just think everything has to be on its merits. I don't think there should be any automatic right of return.
No, fair enough. But what about the premise itself? I mean, because I don't know about you, I hate apocalypse movies. I hate them with a passion. I will not watch the world is going to end movies. I just detest them.
Well, I saw ID4, so you know, I've got blood on my hands, but that was some years ago. In my defence,
Right.
you know, obviously I'm commercially implicated by having paid for a cinema ticket like a fool. Yeah, do I hate them? I certainly don't gravitate towards them. I was forced to watch this one, of course, because you set it as the comedy Slab homework last week.
How did they end up with an Independence Day 4 if the world ended in the first? I mean, obviously didn't end in the first one then.
Well, no, good point. Yeah, ID1, ID2, yes. You got to have a system, as Harry Hill says. I don't think he necessarily meant about the end of the world. Sorry, I'm evading the question because I'm not quite sure of my answer.
I mean, did you sit there and think, this? Because I'd worried about it because I'd not seen it either. So I kind of thought.
You mean you were worrying about the end of the world, or
no,
just how they were treated?
How this is going to stack up as fair for comedy.
Yeah, I once went to a meeting where the then head of BBC Comedy said, "Don't give me any more comedies, please, about the scientists who were at the Antarctic." And at that very moment, I was working with some BBC colleagues on a sitcom set in the Antarctic with a group of scientists. So,
really?
Yeah, really, absolutely true. And I do.
Did he end the sentence with the word Adrian?
He didn't need to. By then, I'd worked out, you know, he could have been talking to me. And sure enough, we didn't get commissioned. Strange that. Despite our best efforts. I think equally he could say that about...
There's never been a sitcom about scientists in the Antarctic, has there?
Well, actually, I mean, you know, in our defence, I think there's... Just as I just said everything on their merits, I mean that across the piece, which would include, or across the piste, if they're snowboarding in the Antarctic. Yeah. But, you know, I think the only rules are no rules in artistic endeavour. There shouldn't be any safe havens or fenced-off areas where thou shalt not go, there be dragons, all of that. Yeah. So I would never say, don't go for an end-of-the-world comedy. On the other hand, I think it's superficially it's seductive because it's big. We can make a massive statement about the human condition here. If anyone even used that phrase, I don't know. I'm trying to think myself into where they started out. Is it Richard Welsh, the writer, who I couldn't see any other series? I think this is his first series, first TV or film. TV series.
Yeah, I think so.
You've got to start somewhere. But I just think it might not be the golden goose that you think it is as a creative when you think, oh, wow, what bigger statement could we put on the so-called small screen, which, of course, these days can be a tiny iPhone or it could be a huge home cinema. And I think they've got a bit giddy on that. I think it's a classic case. I mean, I'll develop this theme if you want me to. A bit later, maybe after a clip or two more. But I think they've just got giddy on a budget and they've thought, the more money we throw at it and the more impressive, you know, the greater number of extras we have, the funnier it will be. And unfortunately, I think it's the exact reverse. That's my experience of it.
All right, hold that thought. You're right, let's have another clip then, because I want to bring on my take of...
Yeah, sorry, that's long overdue.
how the story works as well. No, not at all. And also a budget and the way it's shot and all the rest of it. I think it's a really good point. You mentioned, and I thought it's a nice lead into the next clip. Actually, you mentioned Rob Lowe, who, of course, if you're old enough, a lot of people remember for a lot of serious roles in movies, didn't he, Rob? He was. He started out in teen movies, didn't he? That kind of in the 80s. He was that kind of actor. And then went into some serious roles like, A Few Good Men and all those kind of movies he was in. So no slouch when it comes to acting chops. For some reason, and I've seen him pop up in a few things. I mentioned Parks and Recreation. I think he makes a cameo appearance in quite a few episodes of that, the American program. For some reason, he's decided he really likes comedy. And I think the reason he really likes comedy is because he's so good at it. Because, it's not, I think you mentioned previously, to be a good comedy actor isn't all about putting on a big nose and buffoonery and all that kind of stuff. The more seriously you can play it, the more straight you can play it, the better you are.
Yeah.
In this, and I love the fact, did you pick up, I don't know, because I know you're religious, but you're not a Catholic, are you? So you might not have picked this up.
So not a proper religious person.
You're not a proper religious person, yeah. But Rob Lowe, his name's Father Jude.
I saw that. It's pretty unsubtle, isn't it? But it's got to be something that, I was expecting a Father Diablo or something like that, the devil.
Yeah. For those who don't know, St. Jude is the patron saint of lost causes. But he's...
Otherwise known as St. Adrian.
Oh, no. We pick him up as one of the characters, and the way that this is shot is that they go from character to character to character, telling each bit of their story, which will reach a point of convergence, presumably, a little bit, later on in the series. And here's where we catch up with the rather unorthodox priest, played by Rob Lowe, Father Jude, and he's actually conducting an interview for a new assistant.
So, tell me what you know about the Devil's Advocate.
Honestly, nothing. I thought it was figure of speech until I saw your door. I should not admit that. I never had a job interview before.
Right. In that case, I will treat you to the full spiel. When they want to make someone a saint, they have to prove that they led a good life and that there are 2 miracles that can be attributed to them since they died. My job is to prove that they felt up kids and parked in the handicap spaces, and that the 2 miracles are bullshit. It's basically quality control. And it's worked very well for 400 years until old JP2 abolished the office in the 80s. And then what do you think happened?
We made more saints?
Exactly. We've canonized more people in the past 5 years than in the entire 19th century. So, they've reinstated the office, and here I am, the ecclesiastical turd in the swimming pool. And I need help. I need someone tenacious with a clear head and thick skin, because we will not be popular. Do you have doubts, Celine, about your faith?
Yes.
Good. There's no faith without doubt. Next question. Do you smoke? Have you ever tried? Then how do you know you won't like it?
I think there are a succession of good cameos. Maybe it's no cameos. Probably not the right term, because it's a bigger part than that, isn't it? There's lots of things that just don't join up for me. That's a really good performance from both of them. That's a nun who is going for the job, as you say, and Sister Celine. I'm really a believer that less is more. I could have done with half an hour of him as the key character. But the fact he's part of we have 2 main locations, or is it 3? We're globe trotting, globe hopping, and obviously we're an audio podcast, but the visuals are you literally get to see planet Earth, you zoom out, and then you zoom back into a different part of the world. Again, very impressive from a budgetary point of view, and look at us. And I think it's quite telling for the legal avoidance of us ending up in court. I should say it's a working title production along with Big Balls production. That to me says it all, possibly more than they wanted to say. You know, it's look at how big our balls are, look how big our budget is. We can even zoom out to the other side of the world. Actually, it's 3 setups, aren't there? We're in New Mexico for some of it, for the prison, and you know, so in a sense, it's a million miles away from a more minimalist, classic studio sitcom with an audience hopefully laughing along and all of that. Yeah.
The interesting, I mean, its working title is the one that's got all the clout from what I can gather, isn't it? Because they've made so many huge films, British films like Drop Dead Fred, which is a Rick Mayall film, Four Weddings, Fargo, Notting Hill, Billy Elliot. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I think that's where the budget and the ability to make something, because it's beautifully shot, isn't it? I mean,
it's a quality product again. Yeah, wonderful production values.
But don't you like? I see one of the things that attracted me about it was this drawing in these multi-stranded narratives. So you kind of you are hopping from one. I think we've had this before where I say, "Oh, I like the chaos," and you've said, "Oh no, I like the stability." Mm. And I really enjoy that, because I'm all the while my mind's ticking over, thinking, "Oh, where?" Celine, we know from what we've seen at the start that the nun ends up in the bunker in Slough, and all I'm thinking is, how are they going to make that work? And this idea, you know, Adrian, where they get all the strands, where they go, okay, we've got this priest and the nun there, we've got this woman in prison who's accused of hacking the NSA, but she's actually was a son that did it, and she's taken the fall for her son because she didn't want her son to go to prison. We've got this guy who's a bank manager in Slough.
So we convert NSA to, is it National Security Agency? That's
it, National Security Agency, yeah. And but all these strands will all come together.
I think you're confusing me with someone who gives a hoot.
Why?
You have to care, don't you? I mean, you clearly do care. I really don't care, because all they've got to do is say, right, well, we can afford the flight. We'll fly this actor over. We'll put them in this situation. We'll snap our fingers and make it happen. I mean, I'm just not impressed by... Well, I am and I'm not. Yes, you've read an impressive roll call of working title productions, but I just wonder if they've gone up their own fundament a little on this, and they just think it's typical corporate arrogance. We can do no wrong because we are who we are.
I didn't see it from that side of it at all. It completely drew me in as a piece of fiction, and I wasn't thinking about how it was. I mean, curiously, it was all made, or a lot of it was made in Malta, wasn't it? Which is
a beautiful country. Well, I suppose it's the Italian thing. Yeah, it's probably. Well, I saw in the credits he had to pause them to be able to read them.
Jeez, I've never seen credits. I mean, I know the Americans love that kind of thing, but talk about whiz past. They were ridiculous, weren't they?
But also that makes my point. It again, I'm afraid it's money culture. It says, you know, you could have made, is it Sarah Kendall, who's your heartthrob, our mutual heartthrob? You could have made God knows how many editions of that radio show that we've both lauded to the skies, you know, for one edition of this show. And one of the reasons the credits are going past, one is that anyone can freeze frame if they want them. But two is just how many names they've got to get through, because it's got it looks like the length of credits of a Star Wars movie or something. You know, second driver, assistant to the second driver, makeup assistant to the third driver. Okay, I slightly exaggerate, but you know, it's a kit of many moving parts. But again, I return to less is more, and somewhere in the fog of a commissioner's tick, a green light, you know, a go-ahead with his production, something got lost, or maybe much earlier than that, to my mind. And perhaps it was the poor old viewer, you know, how we're going to make them laugh. Because I'm afraid I did a little chuckle just then, because I could hear you were enjoying it. It's the old thing about the sociability of laughter and being with other people, and it feels like that when we're both listening rather to the audio clip in real time. But I sat there stony-faced for certainly the first time through. I saw one or two gags a bit more clearly the second time through.
But again, I don't. Is that a bad thing? I mean, I'd never punish a comedy program for not making you laugh out loud. If it's not funny, it has to be a lot for me to laugh out loud.
Well, shouldn't it be ambitious to try and hit that high bar?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. But equally, I can still enjoy something. It's like Steve Coogan's Saxondale. I don't laugh out loud, but I really enjoy what he does with the character, and I think it's really funny and really clever. But I'm not going, he's fallen. He's dropped the piano on the woman's head, and that, you know what I mean? It's not that kind of thing, and I kind of think, isn't that just a separate kind of comedy? And you almost sound like you're penalising them for having a lot of money. Like, how can that be a bad thing? It's beautifully shot. It's got a huge cast because they can afford it. How can that can't be bad, can it? Can it?
Well, if the comedic premise gets lost in that miasma of money, I like alliteration, but I don't know if that works. But
Okay.
yeah, no. If it was funny, I would be chuckling along with it. Or no, I do take your point. Part of me says, because what was it? You were saying you weren't exactly falling about with whatever we were slabbing. Was it last week's?
Fleabag,
yeah.
Fleabag. I love Fleabag, but it doesn't make me laugh out loud. But I relish every twist and turn that they do with the character, and I do find it amusing, and I do find it funny. But it doesn't make me laugh out loud. I don't. And I was like this. Here's the thing: because it's like a 42-minute episode, isn't it? I think with
Yumi twice that.
Yeah, about 42, 43 minutes, something like that, which presumably fits in an hour slot, does it?
In the States, 12 minutes of ads or whatever they have, even more.
Did that help it or hurt it, do you think? I mean, is that, if I said to you, okay, we're going to have to edit it down to 25, 26 minutes, maybe 27 minutes, do you think that would do it a favour?
It would put me out of my misery earlier. My heart really sank because any new listeners should know that we do actually, we take this comedy slab seriously, despite the fact it's comedy, or because it's comedy. Comedy matters, but to anyone who thinks, oh well, it's just a laugh, we won't do our homework. I put myself through purgatory watching this a second time, and no, it was worth it in that I had missed some stuff the first time through, probably because of my aforementioned anchoring, and the trigger word Slough. It's giving me PTSD again, just the mention of it.
What about the premise of it then? The whole the world's going to end in 34 days. Does that?
I never thought I wouldn't care about my home planet and the very basis of my existence, but I really didn't care. Oh, go and put us out of our misery then. Do we have to wait 34 days to go through this?
I must admit, I was saying to my wife, I said, there's not much to laugh about the apocalypse. And then I saw that, have you seen that advert that's on at the moment for a company that will sell your house quickly? And it's set in a control centre in the United States somewhere, and they're saying, we're tracking the meteor now. What's the latest? And they're saying, we've found out the position, it's heading to Earth, it'll be within the next 7 days. Have we got coordinates where it's going to go? It said, yes, it's going to land in Birmingham. Do we know whereabouts in Birmingham? Yes, Park Road, Birmingham. And a bloke from further down on the monitors leans forward and goes, hang on a minute, I live in Park Road.
I thought you could say that's you, or that's where your family home was.
No, he says you need to sell your house in a hurry, that kind of...
Yeah.
But, so there is comedy to be had out of the apocalypse.
Of course there is, yes. Well, I mean, as Johnny Spate said, and I believe I've quoted before, but it bears retelling, comedy and tragedy, as the writer of Till Death Us Do Part, rest his soul, said, two sides of the same coin. So that's not of itself a problem, but it is a problem when you think, I don't know, it's partly me working on my own projects, and I just end up reverse engineering, and I think they've started from the wrong premise. And I may be on the wrong premise here. I may be totally wrong, trying to unpick, they've started with, right, what will be impressive to Sky viewers or impress Sky commissioners, which is how you have to think as a writer, sadly. And they say, go out with a bang, something big. Oh, yeah, right. And how's that going to be relatable to Sky viewers, Sky subscribers? It just feels so cynical. And that's not to detract from these fine performances. Pauline Quirke, we're going to hear in a mo. I should probably shut up so we can hear her. She sparkles onto the screen. I'm not quite a Mathew Baynton fan in the same way you are, but I mean, it's a perfectly creditable performance. But I just think it just feels like it started from a cynical place, and once you've started with cynicism, it's never going to get better. I may be wrong. I mean, clearly you've enjoyed it, and so it's not a theory that probably holds any water with you.
All right. Well, if you didn't like the plot up to now, there's a twist coming up which
can't wait for this one.
completely hate it and think, this is it. I'm never going to watch episode 2. And if that's how you feel, then that's you've got to be honest, like you say, about these things. And I think there'll be people who will listen to the Comedy Slab and might go and try this and think, actually, I felt exactly the same as Adrian. Let's hear the third clip then, because it is a plot twist. Mathew Baynton, Joel Fry, who we haven't mentioned, who I think he's a fab young actor as well. I've seen him in things like Plebs and. But have you caught up with any of his work at all? Have you seen any of his stuff?
I recognised him, but again, he bursts onto the screen with a great ball of energy and his funky hairdo and all of that. Yeah, so another great cameo, I'd say.
He was in W1A in 2012 as well, which you might have caught him. I think he worked at the ad agency, and his thing was whenever they were having a brainstorming thing, he'd come up with a rubbish answer for the brainstorming. But so you might not have might not have noticed.
Was he paired with that actor who sadly died so young?
Yes,
recently.
Yeah, there were the two of them worked in the ad agency. Right. Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name. Yeah. But anyway, so there's Joel Fry's character, Mathew Baynton's character, and Pauline Quirke, whose character is Mathew Baynton's character's mother. Are all sitting in the living room. They've all kind of had the bad news, but there's more bad news to come.
We have just 34 days left.
God.
8 miles wide and going...
What do we do now?
I don't know about you two, but I'm going to get absolutely hammered.
I'm going to the weather here, but where's Jane? Has Jane gone? She's gone.
You didn't answer my question. Do I have a twin?
I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe? What do you mean, maybe?
You're adopted, Jamie. You were found in a shoebox in a car park. You were tiny, a few hours old, and I adopted you, and I meant to tell you, I promise I did, but it's just the older you got, there just never seemed a good time.
And this is a good time? It's my birthday and the world's ending.
I'm sorry. Jamie, I'm sorry. Jamie!
Forgive me if I'm not, I haven't got a sewing kit to re-sew up my split sides, as a friend said to me. I should say, in fairness to him, when I said something he found profoundly unfunny. So clearly, Richard Welsh hasn't got the monopoly on being unfunny. That's probably cruel to him, but I'm equally being cruel to myself.
Yeah, see, I love that. I laughed out loud at that bit when she said, "I've been trying to." There never seems to have been a good time.
And Mathew Baynton, or Jamie Carrick.
This is a good time,
Well, yes. What can I say? I just end up repeating myself on this. I think I'm going to sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but I will risk it for the cause of where I believe the Comedy Slab's heart lies, and I'm not sure where the heart lies of this show. It's a bit like the week before last. It's Warren again, isn't it? I did accuse it of not having a heart. Maybe this one, I don't know, head has ruled heart. But it's just a lack of comedy focus. It's just,
Right.
it is literally all over the place. But what I was going to say was, sorry, I lost focus then. We have the comedy drama, and we are back to Slough here. It is The Office, and before that, as I've said previously, the Royal Family, where the sitcom no longer, it was deemed by the powers that be, required a live studio audience. And there's certainly an argument for that. There's certainly loads of arguments against, the cacklers from Acton or whoever they were back in the day, who... we were equally annoyed if something wasn't funny, and yet the audience appeared to find it funny. You're either suspicious that the laughter's canned, or, I've heard all those arguments. We've rehearsed them on the Comedy Slab. But the comedy drama is a new, it's not so new now, but post The Office, post Slough, heaven help our sorry souls, we have this new form where there is no imperative anymore, ever again, to get a laugh out of a studio audience, because they ain't there. So what it means is, if you're pro this, you're liberated from Mrs. Miggins from Acton and her cackles, or if you're on my side of the fence today, I would swap sides as it suits me. The other thing is, I don't have to write too many laughs.
But then isn't that a comedy drama? Isn't that it's like Fleabag hadn't got many laughs in it. Well, it was a comedy drama.
Except,
but I think
for me it has. But sorry, I'll let you finish your point.
And I was going to say the difference with this is that with Fleabag, you've got a character that you either love or you hate. If you love her, you go with her. If you hate her, you presumably go somewhere else and watch something else. But with this, if I said, and it's interesting, it depends on who you ask as to who the central character is or to who the star of the show is. Because I think if you said to a British audience or to the Brits, who is it? It'd be Mathew Baynton. If it was the Americans, they'd choose one of the Americans. So I think that focus. I think you're right. I can't really argue with it. The difference is that I come out of it thinking, actually, I would give it another episode. I'm not sure I'd go with it right to the end if it doesn't smarten up its act. But I think I enjoyed what I saw, I think, is what I'm saying.
Well, I'm pleased one of us did.
That's the whole point. But as you rightly said, and I think that's a really good point, is that I'm more of a Mathew Baynton fan than you are. We both agree on Pauline Quirke. I think she's fab. We both agree on Joel Fry. I know the Americans from other stuff I've watched, people like Jenna Fischer and Megan Mullally and Rob Lowe that I've seen in other comedies. And then when I saw what was happening in next week's episode, did you see the American guy, the military guy, Patterson, played by Patterson Joseph, who was he was Johnson in Peep Show. He's another British actor.
Oh, is he a rare example of a black character who's allowed to be a baddie? In Peep Show, I mean.
In Peep Show. Oh, he was brilliant. He was just psychotic, wasn't he? In Peep Show, he was awesome. But in this, he said, they're just basically prepared to lie about the fact they're going to save the Earth is what's coming up in the next episode, sort of thing. So, and even that kind of hooked me as well. But it's horses for courses, isn't it? And if you don't buy into all those characters and think, this is a great cast, I'm going to sit down and enjoy this. If you haven't got that, then it very much hangs on what you're hearing, what you're seeing, and what's been written. And if that isn't up to scratch, you're not going to enjoy it.
I think there's a structural problem with it being based all over the world. It does. I think you've articulated, whether you intended to, part of the problem with it. Who is the star? Or not so much who is the star, it's not who do you recognise or who do you find the most talented, is where is the focus of the drama. And if you read anything...
Who's the lead?
Yeah, and if you read anything, as I have, I won't say to utter distraction, but, at various times I've taken a professional interest in it, but I think it also makes it more interesting as a viewer and a listener to have the tools to analyse these things. Of course, you can overanalyse, but the Comedy Slab is about some level of analysis, and I think what these books guide you, if you're trying to do some writing, is away from having a confused focus. The audience need to know, if you go back to the theatre and you go back to Greek times, whatever, what am I meant to be looking at? I'm sitting in this seat here, I've paid for my ticket, what do you want me to focus on? You can give me all manner of extras. You can give me, stuff being flown in, cables, people, special effects, all sorts. You can do whizzy things these days, have been able to for years, but what do you want me to take away, and what should I be concentrating on now? Where is the focus of the drama?
Come on then, let's put it out of its misery with a great big score to the head.
I thought you were going to give me a gun,
out of 5 each, of course, if you're not caught up with us on the Slab before, he gets 5, I get 5. You're surely got to be your turn to go first with the numbers.
It has, and the funny thing is, I'm going to overrule my inner voice, my first reaction, because I thought my first reaction was too generous, and you might think, oh, that's, you should listen to the inner voice. The inner voice said 3 stars, and I said, no, you're having a laugh, mate, to the parrot on my shoulder, otherwise known as my subconscious. My mind's got a mind of its own, and it talks to itself, which is truly madness. I can't give it more than 2.5. If it had to be about, fancy stuff on screen, it would probably get 6 out of 5. But that's not what it's about, and that's not, for me, what the Comedy Slab's about. 2.5, and that's as generous as I can be.
Okay, I'd give it a 3.5. First episode, a lot to do, a lot to get in. I think they accomplished it reasonably well. As you say, and I wouldn't disagree with you, wasn't huge on the gagometer. They weren't flying in left, right, and centre. So I think a reasonable 3.5 from me. 6 out of 10. I think it's. Considering how much you didn't like it, I think it's done okay.
It got away with it.
Human in the Apocalypse.
Here's the funny thing: we mentioned IMDb. We are living in the information age, and I don't know how he feels about it, but. And I've got no personal slight against any of the people here. The one person I've worked with is Pauline Quirke, and I didn't just say nice things about her because I had worked with her, because she was generally good. But poor Richard Welsh, on the clapometer that is imdb.com, would you believe he's gone down, and I kid you not, or it may have changed in the last hour, but when I last looked, he's gone down 3,063,947 places since last week.
Right.
What does that even mean?
I've no idea, but it can't be good.
Well, it doesn't sound flattering, but how can there be 3 million TV writers out there or on one website for him to go down? Probably he's still above me, so, he's got the last laugh over me.
Yeah, I don't even get on there, so that's fair enough.
Well, you need to write something.
You, me and the Apocalypse, if you've listened to me and thought, I think I'd like to give it a go, it's on Pick at the moment, but of course, as this heads its way off into the internet, and you can pick it up at any time. Probably your best bet is to follow the links that I put in, and you can actually grab a copy or grab an episode of this online. You can pay as you go if that's what you want to do. We always put some kind of links in so you can try and find the comedies that we're talking about. Maybe you're listening outside of the UK. We try and do it. I never know, because you can never actually test it, but I try and do it so it works internationally as well, so you can have a look. But of course, wherever you are, go to your favourite search engine and type in buy, and then whatever the program is called, and that will generally bring it up. It now brings us to the time in the podcast where Adrian gets to choose something for us to watch for next week. What have you got, big boy?
Well, I thought we've had, although it's a bad analogy, immediately I'm going to shoot it down, even though it's my analogy. We've had the concept album, like a Sgt. Pepper this week, although I have to say I prefer Sgt. Pepper, the album. But, that's meant to be an image, but it's not even working for me, so, yeah. Next week, we need the White Album. We need to strip it back to basics. We need something sort of graunchy, rough, diamonds in the rough, ideally. I thought I need to go back to something. I was looking for something stand-up-y. What I've discovered, and there is a health warning attached because it doesn't hang around for long on BBC Sounds, In fact, as I speak, it's going to evaporate in a few days. So that is a problem, but there are ways around it. I want to come back to basics with a comedian or a comedian-led show. I'm going for radio because I've had enough of very seductive pictures that don't actually lead me very far. Have you heard of Terry Alderton, Shane?
No. Any relation to John?
Well, I do wonder. I haven't looked it up. I will do the research for next week. I'd love it if he was actually his son or, the love child of... But I suppose if you're a love child, you wouldn't take the surname. Anyway, he's relatively new to me, but he's been on the scene for some years. He's established, I think, a cursory check suggests he's an established stand-up. What I like is, this is totally nutty. The clue is in the title. It's called More Crazy Now, which is, I think, the second series following up to, guess what, Crazy Now. And this episode, it's the last one of the series, which is, I've just clung on to the dregs of what's available. I mean dregs in terms of time, not quality of material. The episode is called A Lot of Thoughts. Read My Lips. If you can't find it, by the time you're listening to this on BBC Sounds, I would put it into a proprietary search engine. We do try and keep it legit, don't we? Because we believe in comedy. We want to be on side with the industry. People deserve money for all their hard work. But Read My Lips, there might be something on SoundCloud that you can find. Or at the very least, check out Terry Alderton. Even if you can't find this particular show, at least explore him. His website, naturally enough, is terryalderton.com. He's my new discovery of the last couple of hours, and I think it just made me chuckle straight away. And it's much more straightforward. It's a guy being nuts on a radio show. What more could you ask?
Okay, looking forward to that one then. I like a bit of radio as well. It's always nice to go back to, as you say, it can all be a bit of a distraction, can't it, all the pictures. If you've enjoyed this podcast, don't forget you can catch up with, as Adrian said right at the very start, with back episodes. The back catalogue is available on Spreaker, where indeed you can probably get this episode from as well, and on YouTube and Stitcher and iHeartRadio and Apple Podcasts and all the other wonderful places where you can get your podcast from. And we're on social media as well, aren't we?
We are indeed. We are at Comedy Slab on Twitter and likewise on Facebook. So we'd love it if you followed us. We don't just self-promote. We try and, as time permits, give a smattering of other tweets and related stuff, little pointers to things we think you'll enjoy, or sadly sometimes it's links to obits of fine comedians and comedy actors we've lost in the past week or so. What I was also going to say, but I fear it's gone out of my head even as I was trying to remember it. What were you saying? We'd love a rating, wouldn't we? We haven't said this for ages. Nay, we would crave a rating on iTunes / Apple Podcasts if you can spare the time. Apparently it's not as straightforward as it should be, which surprises me for, anything with the Apple logo on. You think it would be sort of consumer friendly, but anyway, keep persevering, say nice things about us, tell us, tell your friends and family about us. What were you going to say? Sorry, Shane.
I was just going to say that was the old Apple, not the current Apple. Those are the old days, the good old days, the Steve Jobs days.
Gosh. Okay, well, if you want to take on the might of $1 billion organisation, rather you than me.
Come on, I'll have you. I'll have you.
Yeah, come on, if you think you're harder. He's from Birmingham, so he's much harder.
Listen, thank you very much for listening, for sticking with us, and we hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I, for one, am off to Slough just to annoy Adrian, because he doesn't believe that real people live there, I don't think.
And I'm what you call a Slough despond, or you can use the initials and spell that out. I'm going to the Slough despond that is Watford. I think I need to revisit my roots. A corporate town that is on the northwest edge of Londinium. Yes, it's a bit like the two. Oh, this is a terrible joke, but yeah, two pools of vomit walking along the road. It must have been in Watford. One starts crying, the other one says, What's the matter with you? And he replies, I was brought up here. In the right hands, that could get a laugh, couldn't it?
Oh dear, nice one.